Okay, looks like we're live. I'm going to let a few people get in here, and if you're watching this as a replay, feel free to fast forward just a little bit to get to the actual kind of main part here. So I'm going to try to get this shared everywhere, get everybody else on here. So appreciate you all joining in for a little bit. Get to it here in just a second. All right, looks like we've got a couple people on here. So go ahead and start talking here for a second. Thank you all for tuning in. This is the RTI post-game reaction show, the second one we're doing this year. Didn't get to do one after the UTC game. That is also UTC, so I don't imagine too many people were too upset about that. But I'm Nathaniel Rutherford, your managing editor of RocketTopInsider.com. I don't think we'll have no Ben McKee or anything like that unless I can maybe get him in on a phone call and have him on speakerphone or something like that. Otherwise, unless he wants to join in the chat, it'll just be me here with you guys. But oh boy, Tennessee loses 34-3 in what I will like to call, I guess, an embarrassment. It at this point, if you're a Vol fan, I don't know. I don't know if anything gets more embarrassing week by week, or if it just stays kind of the same. Or I don't know how you guys feel. I'm waiting for some of you guys to go ahead and kind of hop in here and kind of interact with me here. But Tennessee goes out on the road against Florida. There were opportunities there early. Tennessee's offense, however, God, it was awful. 88 yards of offense in the first half. Obviously, Florida goes down and scores on the first drive. 5 plays, 75 yards. It was a pretty easy first drive for the Gators there. Tennessee, on their next possession, goes 6 plays, 31 yards, and has to punt it. And you're thinking, okay, I mean, at least they moved the ball. It ended up ending in Florida territory. And you're thinking, okay, I mean, that's not, it could definitely be worse for Tennessee in the start of this game here. But it got worse. Tennessee on their next possession, interception in the end zone, which that one, I'll get to Garantano here in a second, did not play well at all. That one was not on Garantano. People are saying he threw too hard and all this stuff. It hit Juwan Jennings in the hands. Juwan Jennings should have caught that pass. And I'll get to Juwan Jennings and some of Tennessee's upperclassmen here in a second making some bonehead plays. But that play should have been caught by Jennings. I mean, there's just not an excuse. I don't care if it was thrown too hard. I don't care what you want to say about it, but it should have been caught by Jennings. Second possession, or it's like next possession, third possession of the game for Tennessee, also ends in interception. That one was Garantano's fault. It was miscommunication with Marquez Callaway. He thought Callaway was going to be coming back on a dig or a hitch or whatever, coming back towards the ball or stopping where he passed a little bit past the first down marker. Instead, Callaway runs past. I think that was probably the correct read by Callaway. Either way, I guess you can put some fault on Callaway there. I don't know without knowing what Jim Chaney's call was there or what his call was there. I don't also know without knowing what Chaney tells receivers to do when certain reads and certain coverages and stuff happen. But right now, just from judging what I saw and everything, I think it's probably more on Garantano. He missed a wide open throw that would have been a touchdown for Dominic Wood Anderson. He was behind on a couple screen passes too. It was not a good game for Garantano. It's time to start Brian Maurer. I'll get to that here in just a little bit, just recapping the game just briefly here as we're letting more and more people kind of come in and join. And feel free to obviously chime in, give your thoughts on the game or whatever. But I will get to Garantano, Brian Maurer, and everything else here in just a second too. But first half offense was abysmal. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, I don't know if you can put it anywhere else, but Volinarki killed me. Yeah. Tennessee was down 17-0 at halftime, and they were honestly lucky to not be down by more than 17 points at halftime. And sorry for kind of being a weird beginning here. I guess I'm trying to get this link posted and also kind of wait for more people to come in and without having a co-host or anything, just kind of having to talk a little bit. But Tennessee had a chance in that first half. Florida turned the ball over. They committed some dumb penalties. Tennessee got some unlucky breaks. I mean, they really did. That fumble was an unlucky break. Tennessee did follow that back up and force another fumble and had a chance there. But that wasn't Garantano's first interception happened. I didn't like some of the play calling, but at the same time, I mean, Tennessee wasn't getting a lot done in the run game, but they also didn't run the ball a whole lot. Eric Gray had one touch in the first half. He ended up touching the ball twice on 2 straight carries to start the second half. I thought that was better. Wasn't a huge fan of the first half play calling, but also, I mean, the execution was just awful by the players. I don't know how much. I don't really know how much I put of this on coaching, honestly. I mean, I don't like some of the things Jim Chaney did. I don't like some of the things Jeremy Pruitt did. But hell, give Pruitt credit. He did at least turn to the backup quarterback at the second half when he realized, hey, Garantano's not getting this done. It's time to try something else here. And I'm fine with letting Garantano kind of play that first half and then making the change at halftime. That way you get Brian Maurer some time to prepare. You talk to him at halftime. You get a game plan for him to come in the second half. So I think it's fine. You could make a case for starting or for pulling Garantano sometime in the first half, but I understand 100% kind of letting him play out the first half and then bringing in Maurer after the second half because you got the entire halftime to talk with him and game plan with him and get him ready to go out there for the first time. And I think you saw that. Tennessee goes down immediately with Maurer as the signal caller, and they get a field goal, the only points they get in the game. But that was really because Maurer, he seemed to be more comfortable. He seemed to have some moxie out there, and he made some mistakes, but he's a true freshman. You expect him to make mistakes like that. He still made less mistakes and less just kind of head-scratching mistakes than your fourth-year junior who was out there in the first half. Tennessee's defense, I thought, played okay in the first half. They played well enough, really, to get Tennessee the victory if the offense had done anything out there. Defense, the secondary wasn't good, but the front seven, while not getting as much pressure on Kyle Trask as you'd have liked, they were still doing their job, and the linebackers were doing a good job of keeping things in front of them. Tackling wasn't that bad of an issue in this game as it has been in the past. It's really just bad coverages and Florida's receivers, making plays in space when they needed to and getting plenty of separation from their man all over the field. Down the field, in the middle of the field, on the side. I mean, they were getting – the Tennessee secondary, to me, has been a pretty big disappointment. Maurer comes in, provides a spark, but then, I mean, that spark was gone. And I thought that might be the case. I wondered if that was going to be the case shortly after he entered the game because he was out there in the first drive, and then I think Florida's defense realized maybe some tendencies, maybe some what they're doing with the play calling, made an adjustment. And then if it wasn't that second possession for Maurer, let me pull up the drive sheet here. Let's see, Tennessee. Yeah, that very next possession that Maurer was in on resulted in the interception. 3 plays, no yards, and then he was picked off on third down. And then Tennessee punted, fumbled, punted, and then the game was over. So here's Tennessee's drive chart on offense in this game. Punt, interception, interception, punt, punt, field goal, interception, punt, fumble, punt, end of the game. That's abysmal. I don't care how good Florida's defense is, and give Florida a lot of credit. Their defense is really good. Florida's not a top 10 team, but that defense is arguably a top 10 caliber defense for if a team's going to be a top 10. You could say that a team with a top 10 caliber team would have a defense like that. Their offense today looked pretty good, but I think it's more because Tennessee's defense got tired and then they were getting gashed. And Kyle Trask did not look like a first-time starter in 7 years. I'll tell you that much. 20-28 for nearly 300 yards passing for him. The only time Florida's offense really slowed down was when, for whatever reason, Dan Mullen decided to put Emory Jones in, and it kind of just stagnated the offense and stalled him out. Tennessee was their own worst enemy in this game. there were just a lot of mistakes, and a lot of mistakes being made by guys who should know better. I mean, obviously, you point to Garantano with some of those. He's the obvious one. Jawan Jennings didn't play his best game. As for as decent as the stat sheet looks for him, he had some big mistakes. He had that drop pass, which I know people will say Garantano threw it too hard. He still should have caught the pass. I mean, that's all there is to it. Hit him in the hands right here. Him in the hands. He had it, and he couldn't come down with it. That's more on him than it is on Garantano. He also had the running into the punt returner play in the second half. That wasn't excusable. He had another one. I think instead of when Eric Gray was stripped, instead of trying to fall on it, Jennings tried to scoop it up and the ball and run with it, and then Florida recovered because of that. That's another mistake he made. Trey Smith got called for a hands to the face penalty, which that's undisciplined and shouldn't have happened by him. And then Daniel Batuli had a 15-yard penalty. So you had three upperclassmen get called for 15-yard penalties in this game. That should not happen. It should not happen. Nigel Warrior was once again ineffective for most part. Aside from that penalty, I thought Daniel Batuli did pretty well for today. Him and both Henry To'oTo'o had pretty decent games. Batuli had both Tennessee sacks in the game. 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss for him. To'oTo'o had also 8 tackles. He had 2 quarterback hurries. Batuli also forced a fumble. I mean, he was probably him and To'oTo'o were probably 2 of the few highlights from the game. They're in the game for Tennessee. Theo Jackson had an interception. Alante Taylor had an interception. That was a good heads up play by Taylor. He didn't have the greatest game overall, himself, but that interception was some really good awareness. All right, guys, we've got enough of you guys in here. About 16, 17 of you guys here in the watching this now in the chat. I want to get some of your thoughts on it because, oh boy, where does Tennessee go from here? Thoughts? Are we a 2-10 for the rest of the season? Ball and Arky asks. I don't want to say yes because that's never happened before. Obviously, 4-8 never happened until it happened in 2017. Tennessee is capable of beating Vanderbilt. They're capable of beating Mississippi State. They're capable of beating Kentucky. I think they're capable of beating South Carolina, but I'm not capable of beating Georgia, not capable of beating Alabama, not capable of beating Missouri. Obviously, they should be able to beat UAB. But man, alive. You're staring down the barrel of a 1-6, maybe 1-7 record by the time you're getting into November. That's horrifying. I mean, at this point, Mr. Thompson asks, but the QB problem has to change to see what the new kid can do, and you never know what can spark and win. I mean, I get it. The quarterback change, like I said, he sparked Tennessee's offense. Brian Howard did on that first drive, but then after that, I mean, he was fairly ineffective. I know some of that probably was also play calling, and after he threw the interception, they took him out. So I mean, maybe you didn't get to see necessarily what he could do after that. But I just don't know that Tennessee's quarterbacks, that they really have really good choices, really good options at this point. I mean, honestly, Garantano might be the best one out there, and I'll just say he's not good. I was wrong about Garantano. I was a defender of JG for a while. I was, I thought I still think he did last year, got undeserved blame in some games. Obviously, he deserves some of the blame in some parts, but I still will say I think last season he got too much of the blame for some of Tennessee's miscues and mishaps. This year, he's for the most part gotten fair blame. I don't blame as much of the Georgia State game on him as some people like to do. BYU game is a lot on him. This game, it's a lot on him too. Tennessee had plenty of other things go wrong in this game too, but Garantano's play did not help Tennessee at all have a chance to win this game. And Brian Maurer, to me, I would rather see a true freshman out there making mistakes than a redshirt junior. But at the same time, I mean, if you put Maurer in and he can't against Georgia, and then against Alabama, and then against Mississippi State, and then against South Carolina, and 4 straight games for him as a true freshman making starts, you run the risk of how kind of bad Tennessee's offensive line is, how bad Tennessee appears to be in general. You run the risk of maybe ruining his confidence, and I don't know. I still think it might be the better call at this point to go with the true freshman Brian Maurer over Garantano, but it means you can't ignore the fact that you got to question whether or not, I mean, if you put him in, um, and you're facing some of these really good teams you're about to face on the schedule, does that shake his confidence? Because I mean, you can look back to Jared Garantano as a redshirt freshman in his very first time starting in 2017. And I mean, he got rattled because I mean he was rocked and hit really hard in a lot of those games and got hurt, missed the Missouri game because of injury. But then also the flip side, you could look at Josh Dobbs in 2013, and he didn't have his confidence rocked really after having to come in and start as a true freshman in 2013. So, God, I mean, I think you can make an argument either way. I think at this point, it's got to be an open competition. Yeah, I don't think you can just trot, not even just a tennis, not even just a quarterback. I think it might be an open competition um, at every position, just about, honestly. I'm looking here on Twitter at a guy named Scott Whitaker who commented on one of our tweets and said, Tennessee has lost a generation of fans over the past decade. Teenagers today have never seen UT football as a powerhouse. It will reverberate into the future. And I think that's a very good point. I've made similar points in different articles and different podcasts and then to different people, both in person and on shows and stuff as well. I agree. Tennessee they've more or less lost a whole generation of fans. I'm 26, be 27 in a few months. My earliest memories of Tennessee football, like I'm trying to think some of the very first things I can remember of Tennessee football as a 26-year-old was that Hail Mary at halftime that Casey Clausen threw in the swamp against Florida. So that's like probably one of my, if not my first memory of Tennessee football. I'm 26. That was back when was that 2003 or 2001 when he did that? I think it was 2003. I don't remember now. But whenever it was, I mean, that was back when I was 10 or 8, whichever one, 2003. So I was 10 when that happened. I had, a few more years of good memories. I remember 2004. I remember when Ainge and Schaefer were quarterbacks then. I remember guys like Rico McCoy, Kevin Simon, Kevin Burnett, Xavier Bitchell. I remember, those defenders. I remember Meacham. Obviously, I remember Jason Slane, who, friends with him now, but who does radio in Knoxville. But I remember that era of Tennessee football fairly well. The kind of mid 2000s from 2003 through 2007. I can remember a lot of that. But that's me as a 26-year-old. That's me as a college grad. That's me as a person who's been, in the job field, as a career field for 4 or 5 years at this point. I mean, God, if you're a player on Tennessee's team right now, the oldest, who's Juwan Jennings, who's I guess 23 probably. He probably doesn't remember that. I mean, I know he was over in Blackman in the middle of Tennessee, but I don't know how much he really truly remembers of even that era of Tennessee. Most of his football memories for Tennessee, and probably almost all of them, are from 2008 onward, or maybe 2010 or 11 onward. I mean, it's just the kids coming out of high school now, the ones who Tennessee is recruiting right now to come join the Vols to help turn things around. They don't remember. I mean, they were barely alive when Tennessee was still competing for the SEC East, not even national championships, for the SEC East. But to get back to this game, sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there that wasn't necessary. Talking about this game, John Smith saying Chaney can't call downfield plays for Jarrett Garantano. He just can't do it or read it. They put Maurer in and started going down the field. I noticed that too. And then there wasn't a whole lot of striking downfield with JG. And then you put Maurer in, and then Tennessee started, throwing down the field a little bit more. I think that alone is a reason enough for me to bench JG. Sorry, I'm typing out another link here to the live show. Adding, is it time for a QB change now? The Aura at night, you said entire screen passes. I think today with the game plan, I was okay with screen passes against Florida because um, you have a very aggressive defense and your offensive line, you didn't expect them to hold up super well against Florida's front seven. And the way to combat an aggressive defense, a blitzing defense, is to run draw plays and to run screen plays. But Tennessee just, for whatever reason, they can't execute the screen plays. I mean, it'd be one thing if you're doing it and even gaining 4 or 5 yards on it, but Tennessee was just dropping it. They weren't executing it. They couldn't complete the pass to Ty Chandler, to Eric Gray, to Dominic White Anderson. I mean, there was at least 3 times, I think, in this game I can remember. I know at least twice, but I think 3 as well, where they couldn't even complete the screen pass. T. Martin's not the answer to OC. I'm just going to tell you that right now. He's not the answer to OC. And Tennessee going into I formation is not the answer either. Tennessee went to I formation a lot last year. And they've gone a lot this year. They tried to go more old school last year, and you saw what happened. Tennessee's offense was abysmal. So I would disagree with you, Mr. Thompson. I don't think T. Martin's the answer to OC. I don't think coaching's been the main issue. Like I said, I had some issues with some play calling with Chaney and some decisions by Pruitt, but honestly, most of it today was, again, just like it has been this whole season so far, and like it was last year, most of it was with execution by the players, not coaching decisions, not play calling. Not that. To me today, it was more about execution than it was about play calling. But there were definitely some issues ahead with some of the play calling. But again, I don't think on offense Jim Chaney felt comfortable calling downfield shots, calling more complex pass plays than what they did, because he didn't trust Garantano. It seemed like when Brian Maurer got in there, they trusted him to throw it down the field more. I thought Maurer made some really good throws. I thought he made some bad throws. But again, he's a true freshman. You expect that. It's his first major playing action on the road against a really good Florida defense. I thought he looked okay. I thought he could have improved a lot of things, but I thought, again, he looked probably better than what your fourth-year quarterback looked like. That's just mind-boggling to me that he looked better, quite a bit better than Garantano did. I think Maurer's legs give him a little bit of an advantage also. Pulling up the stats here, he finished the game. Well, he only finished with 1 rushing yard because he got sacked at least once. I'm trying to remember if he got sacked twice or not. He also had that reception for -2 yards, which cracks me up to think about. But he finished 4 of 11 for 44 yards and a pick. Garantano finished 10 of 17 for 107 yards and 2 interceptions. Garantano finished with positive rushing yards. That's the first time I've seen him with positive rushing yards in a game in a while. 4 carries for 6 yards. I didn't expect that. Tennessee as a whole today for a team ran for 88 yards on 27 carries, 151 passing yards, 3 picks, no touchdowns. No touchdowns at all for the offense. They sucked. Florida's offense, 313 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 128 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, only 3.5 yards per carry on the ground for Florida. I thought Tennessee's defense did a decent job stopping their run game, and also Florida's running game just hasn't been good this year. But man, they get gashed in the passing attack, man. Like I said, it wasn't good from start to finish. It was not, and I truly think now is the time when you have a bye week coming up here. And I actually said this with Ben McKee on one of our podcasts. God, I don't remember when it was now. Might have been after the BYU game, potentially. Actually, I might have said it here on the last live show I did with you guys after the BYU game, that I thought this bye week coming up before they play Georgia would be, if you're going to make a quarterback change, could actually be an ideal time to do it, because you have a whole week off to prepare with your offense, a whole week off to get ready for just different stuff and prepare him. And it's a home game. I know, granted, it's against the top 5 Georgia team, but it's a home game. It's not a road game. If you're going to start another player at quarterback, this would be, I think, a better time to do it. It's not an ideal opponent, but you don't have an ideal opponent to make that first start against on the schedule again until November. I mean, you don't want to have him start against Georgia, but you really don't want to have him start against Alabama. Mississippi State's got a good front 7. You don't want to have to start against that probably. And then you play South Carolina, which is still a pretty good SEC East team. So, I mean, you're just stuck with. I mean, you don't have a good time to throw in a quarterback. You're just going to have to do it, I think. You're just going to have to go with it. I will be very curious when we get the emailed quotes from UT's SID, their sports information department, about what Pruitt had to say after the game. As I saw one quote floating around on Twitter from Pruitt's post game press conference, talking about um, something about grabbing the bulls by the horn. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do with the quarterback situation. But I truly think it's time to at least open it up. And if he can't win the job in practice, I mean, he can't win the job in practice, and it is what it is, I guess. But to me, it's time. It's time to at least open things up and probably move on from Garantano. What are y'all's thoughts in the chat? Let me know. Leave comments in the live chat here. Appreciate guys like Mr. Thompson, Volin Arkey, John Smith, and the Orion Knight for chiming in so far. Feel free to chime in. Feel free to give your thoughts as we continue with the live show here. Probably go on for another. Well, kind of depends on how active you guys end up making it. It may go another just 15, may go another 30. But I'll keep talking with you guys as well. JG really hasn't improved much in 3 years, even as the O-line improved. And I mean, I agree. He's regressed this year. I thought he showed improvement, obviously, from 2017 to 2018. But man, he's made some baffling mistakes this year that a fourth-year quarterback, a third-year starter, should not be making. It's been bad. I mean, there's just no other way of putting it. It's been bad. Garantano has not been able to read the field correctly. He's been on miscommunications with his receivers. And I think it's fair at this point to question, does the offense and does the team believe in him? Because I think when you saw Maurer come out on offense in the second half, it seemed to be with a different energy out there with the offense when he was out there than when Garantano was in there. So I think it's totally fair to question whether or not the offense believes in Garantano or not, and has faith in him. Because from what I saw today against Florida, I don't know if they do. And you could sit there, you'll have players and stuff obviously come out and say they have faith and confidence in him. And the guys like Ty Chandler, you look at after the BYU game saying he believes in them and everything. And Garantano himself coming back out and saying, I feel like I gained some confidence after the UTC game. Whatever confidence he had, I think he lost it, because he looked after his second pick, he looked pretty rattled to me out there, and he took a sack and just looked disheveled and looked like, kind of the old kind of gun shy Garantano, what we've gotten to see when games like this happen for him. I mean, the more and more that things happen, the more and more I realize that Auburn game was more of an aberration than it was his ceiling. I mean, it was his ceiling, yes, but it's more of, it was a getting hot from three as a shooter rather than, hey, that's what he can be if you can get him to be consistent. I guess that was a good point someone made in our mailbag 2 weeks ago, I believe. Someone asked a question on the RockyTopInsider.com mailbag. Is Garantano essentially just a guard on a basketball team who got hot from three in that Auburn game, and then after that just kind of continues to be kind of what he is and isn't all that great, and is kind of a role player? I'm beginning to think that's what it is for Garantano. I think that Auburn game and maybe the Kentucky game and the South Carolina game, those are 3 games of the 12 games he played last season. I think those 3 games are ones where he kind of got hot and he played well and looked good. But the other games, he wasn't horrible because he wasn't making these types of mistakes. That's the thing. He's making mistakes this year he wasn't making last year. I don't know if that's because he's tried to be more aggressive this year and it hasn't paid off. And I think it is part of it. I don't think it's all of a sudden he's stupid and he can't read a field. I mean, he's had issues reading the field, but I'm saying that people are making it sound like he can't even play against kindergartners. I think some of this year's too is a change of mentality for him, and it's not a mentality that bodes well for his playing style or bodes well for what his maybe athletic limitations are. Because he's being more aggressive on his passes, which you'd like to see from a quarterback, but he doesn't have the tools apparently to be aggressive and it pay off. Whereas, Brian Maurer has a good enough arm. He doesn't have the same type of arm that Trout does, but he has a good enough arm and has enough confidence in himself to be aggressive, and it'll pay off. I mean, that throw he completed to it was Josh Palmer over for a first down. That was a perfectly placed ball to where only Palmer could get it because he knew Palmer could leap up and catch it, and the Florida DB didn't have the right momentum and the right angle to smack it or get up and smack it down. That was a perfectly placed football by Brian Maurer on that throw. And there were a couple other throws I thought he made. He did a good job on. He obviously had a couple of throws where I didn't think he did a good job. But again, as I said earlier, he's a true freshman, making his first, having his first career action on the road in the swamp against a good Florida defense. I thought he looked good, especially when you compare to what the fourth year junior did in the first half, and what he did in the second half a little bit too, and what he's done all season except for against UTC. I think it's time to move on from Garantano. I think it's time to. I mean, and the receiving core. I mean, God, Jennings made mistakes today. Callaway was once again. What did he finish with? A catch, maybe. Let me pull up the stat sheet. Callaway had a catch for 27 yards. That was a good play. It was a play where it looked like he was going to go down. He kept his knee from hitting the ground, got up and ran for another, 13, 14 yards or so, maybe even more. But I mean, aside from Juwan Jennings today, I mean, you were nothing in the passing game. Nothing. Callaway had that one big play. You had a really good pass to Palmer from the 12-yard or 17-yard maybe. It was a good pass from Maurer to Palmer. I thought Johnson made a good grab too. That's it. I mean, everyone else, Jennings had 7 catches for 73 yards. Palmer had 2 for 24. Everyone else had 1 catch. Only one running back had a catch, and it wasn't Ty Chandler or Eric Gray. It was Tim Jordan for a 2-yard gain. I don't even remember when that happened. It must have happened maybe in the fourth quarter or something, because I don't remember Tim Jordan getting much action until the fourth quarter. He finished with 3 carries for 16 yards. Chandler, 10 for 34. Gray, 6 for 27. Tennessee ran a grand total of 55 offensive plays. That's terrible. 55 offensive plays. Let me look up some of the stuff from last year. I feel like that's 55 plays on offense. That's really, really bad. I didn't realize until just now how many, or I guess how little of plays Tennessee ran on offense in this game. Let's see. They ran 71 against Georgia State, 77 against BYU, 57 against UTC. But again, that game you could overlook some because you picked off 4 passes, forced a fumble, and blocked a punt. So you didn't have the offense out there a ton, and then they also were given short fields a lot. Let's see. Last year, it can get worse. Last year, Tennessee had 47 plays against Charlotte, 49 against Missouri, and 47 against Vanderbilt. So, I mean, this wasn't even the worst that it's been for Tennessee. And 46 against Georgia. Yeah, Tennessee didn't have the ball very much at all in that Georgia game. I remember that now. Time of possession today. Florida, 34 minutes, 14 seconds. Tennessee, 25 minutes, 46 seconds. The Orion Knight says the receivers need more 50-50 balls downfield like in the Auburn game last year. Yeah, that's not going to be a recipe for success in every game. But a game like this where Florida's secondary was already, kind of injury depleted and not very good, that would have, I think, been a decent call. But then again, I mean, Florida's defensive backs that were in the game today did make some really good plays. Marco Wilson had a really good play. Trey Dean, former Tennessee commit, he had a really good play. They even with the guys being out that were out for them, C.J. Henderson, Steiner was out for the first half and obviously came back in the second half after serving his suspension for the targeting call last week. Even with the guys that had out, I thought actually Florida's secondary played okay. Why not use Eric Gray in the slot? I don't know, man. I would like to see that. I'm a fan of Jim Chaney. I like what Jim Chaney does. He has not gotten Tennessee's running backs involved in the passing game this year like I thought he would, like I thought Tennessee should. That's a very good question. I don't know why they haven't put him out wide or used him or Ty Chandler, either one, more this season. Period. Looking at the stats on the year right now, Eric Gray has 9 catches for 60 yards, but I think almost all of that came. It feels like most of that came in the first two games, maybe. Yeah, I was right. Georgia State, 6 catches, 51 yards. BYU, 2 catches, 5 yards, and then Chattanooga 1 for 4. So I mean, he has 9 for 60, but almost all of that came against Georgia State. Ty Chandler, 3 catches, 4 yards. Tim Jordan had 1 for 3 up until today, so he has now 2 for 5. I mean, this offense has been get the ball to Juwan Jennings, and that's it. And that's not how this offense should be. Marquez Callaway is more than a capable receiver. Josh Palmer's got got good ability. Dominic Anderson has good ability. Eric Gray, Ty Chandler, both out of the backfield have good ability. I don't understand why it's been the Juwan Jennings show or nothing for Tennessee on offense. I mean, it's because they don't trust Guarantano to throw to anybody else besides Jennings. Maybe he doesn't have good chemistry with anybody else besides Jennings. But that's been one thing to me is why has anyone else in the passing game gotten involved besides Juwan Jennings? Or at least consistently. Callaway's gotten involved some, but Ricky Totten here on Twitter was talking about Brian Maurer. And I think this is a good point. He says Maurer only knows one system. Decision making was much faster. JG is a product of 4 environments. I know he's talented, but at 1 and 3, go with the guy that it appears knows the offense better and no habits. If he's a little loose, understandable, but decisive and loose, I'm cool. I think I would agree with that. I think I'd agree with all that. To me, it's a very good point. Maurer's only known one system here in college. Obviously, he had a very, very different offensive system in high school than what he does right now at Tennessee in college. But, I mean, this has, as I've said, I don't know how many times, this is Guarantano's 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years. Pretty sure it's his 4th position coach in 4 years. He's not had a good offensive line. I just think with him, man, it's just a matter of I don't know. I think he's what's the word I'm looking for here? Battle scarred. He's I don't like saying PTSD because it feels like that's too strong of a word to describe maybe kind of a football situation. But I guess for lack of a better term, he just seems kind of like he has PTSD a little bit, where he's not only this is his 4th different system he's having to learn, but he's been beat up so bad and so often before in the past that he seems like he's trigger happy to get the ball out of there, but not make the right reads. I don't know. Shell shock. I mean, it's essentially the same thing. That was what the military used to call PTSD back in the day. So I guess shell shocked is kind of the same thing. Timid's a good one too. I think timid to me would be a good descriptive word for Jarrett Guarantano right now. I can agree with that. He doesn't throw the ball down the field. He makes 2 reads usually at the most. He'll make a third every once in a while, but honestly hasn't very often had much time to make 3 reads or 3 different looks at 3 different targets. But man, this week you've got to open up the competition at quarterback. I mean, you just have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if Pruitt doesn't, that'll be one of the first things I have majorly disagreed with him on. There's been a few different things I've disagreed with him on, and decisions he's made and things he's done. But this would be, if he doesn't open it up, this would be the first thing where I will say, all right, he's lost me here. Not that he's lost me for good, but he's lost me on this one, this specific one. I think he will, because I think at this point you're 1 and 3. Like I said earlier, you're staring 1 and 6, maybe 1 and 7, right down the barrel right now. You're staring it down as much as JG stares down his receivers. I'll say it that much. You have nothing to lose at this point. You have, as I mentioned earlier, the only thing I can think of that would deter me from doing it would be the potential to kind of mess with Maurer, or maybe if you go with Stroud, which I don't think you'll go with Stroud, but mess with Maurer's confidence, because he's going to go up against some just really good defenses at Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi State, all in kind of a row there. That's the only downside I would say. That's the only thing I'd say. Nothing to lose at this point would be maybe you bang up Maurer and get him hurt or get him, turn him into what Garantano was and get him shell shocked. But I don't think so. As Mauer's more mobile, and you can still, like I said, you can point to different examples on both sides of this. You can point to what happened with Garantano in 2017, where he got banged up and he got some of his confidence shaken in 2017 because of all the shots he took as a redshirt freshman. But also, like I said earlier in the show, you could point to Josh Dobbs in 2013. He started as a true freshman because he had to, because everyone else in front of him got hurt. But he came in and, I mean, he didn't have his confidence shaken from what I could tell. I mean, he came back in 2014 and had a breakout game against South Carolina and looked pretty good, and then followed up with a decent 2015 campaign. And then by his senior year he was a really good quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC that year. And then, also a good point there by Ryan Knight about Tyler Bray in 2010. That's a good one too. Second half of the schedule that year was a lot easier, though. I mean, he came in the last 4 games when Tennessee played Memphis, Ole Miss, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. That was back when Ole Miss was bad. Memphis was really bad. And then Kentucky and Vanderbilt still at that point weren't good either. So that's a little bit misleading because Tennessee rest of their schedule this season is nothing like that 2010 schedule. But, I mean, once again, that's a guy who came in, did what he had to do as a true freshman, and obviously didn't really hurt him the rest of his career. Same thing with Josh Dobbs. But like I said, you can point to JG on the opposite side of that. But still, I would still lean more towards playing Brian Maurer rather than not. Mr. Thompson says, look at the pick he threw. He threw it right at the defender. Defense didn't even read it before throwing it. I guess you're talking about JG on that one, on the which one, the second one, or are you talking about Brian Maurer? I'll let you specify, Mr. Thompson, before I go further than that one. But to me, I mean, you can't just settle on changing the quarterback. You've got to change some stuff on defense. I guess on defense, I don't know. I like today also. Another thing I'll say about the play calling, I like they put in Quavaris Crouch at running back and ran him. That was a good play call. I liked seeing that. That was cool, and they got the job done. They got the first down there. They had Greg Emerson in as the fullback on that play as well, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, there were things that they did. I thought down at the goal line when they ran, I think it was Austin Pope. I don't think it was Dominic Wood Anderson. With that tight end going out into the flat there, coming off the line, he was open enough to get the touchdown. It's hard to tell, but I think Garantano would have hit him. But then you had the defender come up and smack it down, who was coming off the edge. That was just a good play by the defense. That wasn't on Garantano. That was a good play. That was a great play call. Had the tight end open. Garantano saw it, was going to deliver it, but unfortunately the offensive line didn't do their jobs. And the next thing you know, the ball's batted down. Then the next play is when you had the interception, and that one obviously, like I said earlier, I don't put that one as much on Garantano, nearly as much as I put it on Juwan Jennings, because Jennings should have caught that. I mean, it just is what it is. He should have caught that. I said it earlier in the show when there wasn't as many people on here, I don't think. One of the bigger concerns for me in this game was the fact that you had some upperclassmen making some really stupid decisions, really bad penalties. You had Jennings not making that catch, which he should have. You had Jennings with that 15-yard penalty after he ran into the punt returner when it was a fair catch. You had Jennings not falling on the ball and instead trying to scoop it up and run with it on Eric Gray's fumble. Also can't do that. You're not supposed to do that. You had Daniel Batuli get a 15-yard penalty. You had Trey Smith get a 15-yard penalty. I mean, those are 3 guys you should be able to count on to consistently make good plays for you and be smart. But they made some costly penalties. And like I said, I will agree that, or I'll say that Batuli, for as bad as that play was for him, he was probably Tennessee's best defender today. Him and Henry To'oTo'o were probably Tennessee's best defenders today, because they both were out there making plays. Batuli had both Tennessee sacks. He forced a fumble. They both had 8 tackles. Henry T also had a quarterback hurry? He had, let me pull up that stat sheet one more time. Henry T, yes, he had 2 quarterback hurries, not just one. He had 2. So, I mean, and Darrell Taylor made a couple of plays here and there. Bryce Thompson, he made 7 tackles, but he looked rusty. I think you could tell it. He looked rusty. Alontae Taylor had that really good awareness on that pick, but he wasn't great either. Warren Burrell did not look good at a lot of different times. Najee Warrior again did not look great for, especially is highly touted he is, and as another senior, he did not look good. Patrick, I don't think he says why are the assistants at Tennessee not able to coach up these kids here when they've had a proven track record of doing so other places. I don't put it on the coaches. Some of it, yes. I mean, it's would be totally unfair of me to not put some of it on the coaches. Tennessee still has a severe culture problem. They just do. They just do. Ben and I talked about it. I know after the Georgia State game, I don't remember we were talking about it again still after the BYU game. I'll tell you right now, you look at that 2017 signing class with the exception of probably Trey Smith, there are several bad apples, I'll say, from that group, and maybe even some in the 2016 class a little bit too. And not everyone's being bad as far as their locker room cancer or anything like that. There are still a lot of issues inside that locker room with this team, with that roster, enough to where it's obviously affecting things. I'm not going to call anybody out and say anything. I don't have any like super detailed inside information on stuff, just from different things that have been told by different people. There's still quite a few issues in that locker room with leadership, with camaraderie, with guys having each other's backs and stuff. And that's been an issue for a few years. You can look back and it all started probably in 2015 with Butch, but it really kind of came to a head obviously in 2016 with the Jalen Hurd fiasco and everything. Then in 2017 we saw it all played out there too, and just how bad the culture was. In 2018 there was still a lot of you could see stuff in the bad culture, and it's still there right now. I mean, you can't fix a culture problem in 2 years, let alone 1 year. It's going to take time, man. And it just really is going to take time. A lot of these guys who were brought in by the previous, and I'm not trying to sit here and say, before I get called out and saying I'm trying to blame it all on Butch. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just telling you how I see it and telling you, to me, from things I've been told, there's still a lot of issues with Butch's players. It's not on Butch. Pruitt and this staff should probably have been able to do a better job at this point with the guys they have and being able to connect with them and coach them. But man, I mean, they can only do so much. A player has to buy in themselves. You can't force a player to want something. You can't force a player to listen to you. You can't force a player to do things they are incapable of doing or just flat out don't want to. I'm not getting angry, even like you asking or anything. I'm just getting angry because it's just, I've sat there and watched the same things you guys have. It's just frustrating, man. I'm not mad at any of you guys asking questions. I'm not mad at any of the viewers here or anything like that. I'm just mad because, dude, man, y'all watch the same stuff I've watched. Y'all are mad too, I'm guessing. But Patrick says they look lost a lot. To me, that's poor practicing leading to poor alignment. The tons of execution issues. That's absolutely on the players. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's on the players more than the coaches. Their coaches definitely deserve some blame. It's never just one-sided. Well, I won't say never, but it's almost always never one-sided when it comes to the issues we've seen at Tennessee, especially this season, but last season too. But I still, man, until I'm proven wrong, or until I feel like I've been proven wrong, I think this is still more squarely on the players than it is on the coaches. Mr. Thompson says, look, the defense is young, and I get that, but the reason why they don't hold up is because they are tired. They are out on the field most of the game. But yeah, I'll agree with Mr. Thompson. Like I said, in the first half, I thought defense, the secondary had mistakes and wasn't playing great. But for the most part, I thought defense did a pretty good job in the first half. They forced, at least one turnover, maybe two turnovers I think 2 turnovers in the first half. They stopped Florida on a pivotal 4th down. They stopped Florida on 3rd down quite a bit. Florida's only 1 of 4 on 3rd down in the first half. They ended up being, I think, like something like 4 of 6 or no, 4 of 8, I think, on 3rd down into the second half. But they're 1 of 4 on 3rd down in the first half. It wasn't until kind of late in the 3rd quarter when you start getting Tennessee's defense starts saying, all right, we're getting tired, we're getting gashed, we've been out here too much. Defense wasn't great, but they did enough to help the team win if the offense had been even close to competent, and they weren't. The one time they looked okay was when Brian Maurer first got in the game in that first drive of the second half. And that's because you had all of halftime to prepare for that and get things ready. And that was the best Tennessee's offense looked the entire game. And then after that, they went back to that. That was sparked it kind of for a drive there. Then after that, the spark was gone, and then the momentum ceased, and you turned the ball over 2 more times again. So inconsistency, shooting themselves in the foot, and you had Kieran Calvert make a bad penalty that was a drive killer for Tennessee. I think that was on Tennessee's. I think it was on their first possession of the first offensive possession. Yeah, I think it was when they got it into Florida territory, and then Calvert had was it a holding call maybe? I'm trying to remember. I think it was a 10-yard penalty he had that pushed the drive back, and then Tennessee couldn't end up picking up that first down. And they had to punt the ball in Florida territory, which you don't like to do. But once again, that was enough. You saw enough from the offense in that first drive to say, okay, I mean, there's something. They drove the ball a little bit. It's a personal foul. Thank you. I couldn't remember what it was. That's right. It was a personal foul. It was a not unsportsmanlike conduct. What's the word I'm looking for? Not even a late hit. I remember what it was. But yeah, you're right. Von Archie, it was a personal foul. He hit that Florida kid late, says Tyler Ferguson. And I remember that now. He did hit him late, but it was also a little bit of a questionable call for if that's what I'm thinking of, because the play was still going on, and I don't know. Either way, whatever it was, there were plenty of just bad decisions in this game. Tennessee had 7 penalties for 75 yards. They had multiple 15-yard penalties, multiple 10-yard penalties. Here we go. I'm pulling up all these penalties right in front of me. Let's see. Tennessee. Yes, it was a personal foul on Kieran Calvert. That was the first penalty of the game. Trey Smith got called for a personal foul later on in the game. It doesn't tell when. This is wrong. It was not the first. It was not the first quarter when that happened, or if it was, it wasn't when they say it happened. But he also had a personal foul. So you had a personal foul on Calvert, personal foul on Trey Smith. Then you had delay of game, false start. That was your first play of. What half was that? Second quarter? I think it's second quarter. Yeah, first play came out and Brian Locklear gets a false start. Then Juwan Jennings is a 15-yard kick catching interference penalty. And then Locklear again comes out first play of the fourth quarter. Very first play of the fourth quarter. False start. Yeah, that to me was one of the worst things that happened. I mean, there was a lot you can point out as one of the just bad stuff that happened in the game. But Locklear, when they came out on the very first play of the fourth quarter, you had a whole break in between the third and fourth quarter. Then Locklear goes out. It wasn't like it was a loud Florida crowd or anything like that either. And he comes out and commits a false start. And you're like, okay, I mean, why not? Y'all have done everything else poorly in this game. Why not do that too? And then also you had the 15-yard personal foul on Daniel Batuli as well. In the third quarter, I believe, is when that happened. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Trey had the hands in the face. I do remember his. I just remember unnecessary roughness. I couldn't think of the phrase. It was unnecessary roughness is what they called on Calvert. But says that he believes there was a delay of game in the second quarter. I believe there was too. Yeah, delay of game second quarter. Yep, it was in the. Yeah, you're right. Right out of a timeout, I think. Yeah, I think you're right. God, there's just so much bad today, guys. Oh, there's just so much bad today. Does it get any better? Does changing the quarterback really change the trajectory of the season that much? You're not getting a bowl game this season, unless you can just somehow pull off upsets against Mississippi State and South Carolina. You're not getting to bowl games because I don't think you're going to upset Missouri. Maybe. I mean, you're going to have to beat. You're going to have to get to 6 wins. Tennessee is going to have to go 5-3 the rest of the way. They're not going to go 5-3 the rest of the way. I mean, I would be happy to be wrong. I absolutely would be. But I don't see it. I really don't see Tennessee going 5-3 the rest of the way. Do you guys? I mean, do you guys honestly? Let me know in the chat. Do you guys honestly see Tennessee going 5-3 the rest of the way of the schedule? Because I think you look at they have guaranteed losses to Georgia and Alabama. That's two of the 3 losses right there. So you can only afford to slip up one more time against Mississippi State, South Carolina, Missouri, UAB, Kentucky, and Vandy. I don't see it, man. At best, you could maybe go 4-4, and that's losing to probably, in my opinion, to Missouri and probably Mississippi State. Although South Carolina's quarterback Ryan Helinski has been playing well enough to that would worry the hell out of me too. It's just I do not see Tennessee winning more games than they lose for the remainder of their schedule. They will be lucky. I don't say lucky, but they'll be fairly lucky to get to 4-8. 3-9, as Vaughn Archie said here, that is a legitimate possibility. Tyler Ferguson says, more than likely, nothing they can do to change the season outlook. They just can't put it together on offense. Your strongest position on offense is wide receiver, but you have inconsistent quarterback play. Exactly, yeah. Having your strongest part of your offense being your wide receiver core is never a good sign, in my opinion, because that is the most dependent position group on your entire team on offense or defense. Your receivers, if the offensive line doesn't do their job, receivers can't get the ball. If the quarterback doesn't do his job, receivers can't get the ball. If the running backs don't do their job and can't do well in the running game, that lets the defense zone in more on the passing game, and the receivers can't get the ball. So the receiving, like I said, the receiving room for Tennessee is really good. It's one of the better ones in the SEC. It's definitely top half of the SEC. But when you have an offensive line that, well, they have gotten better, still not great. A quarterback play that's been severely inconsistent, can't get them the ball. I mean, it's kind of a waste to have as good of the receivers that you have. Yeah, the whole unit looked different on that first Brian Maurer possession. And then after that, they went back to being what they were. Even on Maurer's second possession, when he threw the interception, it didn't look good. It just was a bad game. And give Florida some credit to this one, because Florida has a good defense. They really do. And that's one of the better defenses Tennessee is going to face this whole season. In fact, they'll probably would be Bama and Georgia number 1, number 2, just kind of however you would want to. And Bama's defense hasn't been great to start this season, but they're still Alabama's defense. Those two are probably the best two defenses Tennessee faces this year. Then Florida's right there. I mean, they have a really good defense. Even with the guys who are out today, you didn't have Jabari Zuniga to worry about. You didn't have C.J. Henderson to worry about. Steiner was out for the first half. And yet Tennessee, I don't know, man. It was bad. Florida's offense, you said it was bad, Volnarchy. It wasn't bad. It was just, Tennessee couldn't do anything to stop the passing game for whatever reason. Their offensive line's not very good. Yeah, not great. That's a good way to put it. The offense for Florida is not great. They're not a top 10 team. They aren't. But unfortunately for Tennessee, Tennessee's not a top 50 team. And so they didn't have a chance of pulling off the upset, even though they forced 3 turnovers, even though Florida committed 5 penalties, even though Florida's running game only averaged 3.5 yards per carry. Tennessee, despite all that, Tennessee's just bad enough to where it didn't matter. But guys, I'm starting to feel a little bit like a broken record here, and like I'm saying kind of the same stuff over and over again. But I appreciate all of you for tuning in. If I had Ben on with me, we could go for a lot longer. He and I might still do a podcast of some sort tonight, but I don't know. It was bad. What chances do we have against Georgia in 2013? That's a good point. Tennessee, they were a pretty big underdog against Florida or against Georgia in 2013, and somehow that game, to this day, I don't know how Tennessee almost won that game, and they should have, if not for Pig Howard trying to just doing all he could to give Tennessee a victory, and the ball flying out of his hands. That just sucked. That was one of the more unfortunate endings, because it wasn't because it was a gaffe on defense like he had against Florida in 2017. It wasn't like it was a blown call or busted coverage or anything like that. It was a guy trying to make a play, going all out to make a play, and just having, I don't know, like I said, just bad luck. Said you can't remember Tennessee's record. Let me pull that up really quickly, because I feel like it might have been the same record Tennessee has now. Maybe they had most had 2 wins. I don't think they had 2 wins when they played Georgia that year? Let me pull up the 2013 schedule. They did. That's right. They did. They played Austin Peay and Western Kentucky to start the year, and then they went on the road to Oregon, on the road to Florida, played South Alabama. So actually, they had 3 wins when they played Georgia. So Tennessee was actually 3-2 when they played Georgia in 2013, and that game where they lost in overtime. So I kind of forgot about that one actually. Yeah, they were 3-2. So they're actually better than 1-3, that's for sure. Sorry, Vol and Arky for me saying the top 50 thing, but I mean it's true. Tennessee's they're not even a top 50 team right now. They're probably not even. Are they even a top 75 team? Let's be honest. I don't know. Later on, you guys can all come over and kick me in the jewels. That's how I feel when I watch UT. Yeah, I hope all of you listening or watching along have a better day than how it started here. And maybe you are just at the apathetic point and don't even care anymore, but I wouldn't blame you on that one. But we'll still have plenty of coverage for you guys, not just about Tennessee football, but about Tennessee basketball, because that's a good team. And I want to talk about some good teams. So I might do some more basketball heavy stuff for you guys in the bye week, because football is just not fun right now. It does not. But we'll still have coverage for you after this game and everything too. I appreciate all of you who tuned in live, for watching the replay. Thank you for watching the replay. Appreciate it. You can follow us on all our social media. We're Rocky Top Insider on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, if you're watching this, you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to us. We appreciate that a whole lot. RockyTopInsider.com is our website. We do podcasts. We do live streams like this. We do all kinds of content writing, video work, audio work. We do everything that you guys could want and ask for. And if there's anything else you want to see from us, let me know. We'll be happy to obviously do what we can to bring you all the content you want and crave of Tennessee athletics, football, basketball. We have Lady Vols coverage. We have baseball coverage as well. So we're not just a two-sport kind of market here. We do everything we can to bring you a lot of Tennessee sports and athletics. So thank you all for tuning in. Again, I'm Nathaniel Rutherford, managing editor of RockyTopInsider.com. Appreciate y'all tuning in for live stream. If you're watching the replay, appreciate that too. See you guys not next week because there's a bye week. But see you guys later for whenever we do another live stream.